Hey, Jays fans, it's Jimmy Allen here. Alex Drake's going to be joining me here shortly. We've got a great and packed show loaded for you today. Jeff Vanderloo, Creighton assistant, joins us to talk about how the start of practice has gone. The Jays just a couple weeks in to the preseason, as well as Mitch Ballock, former Creighton great, returns to this program as a graduate assistant. What does that look like for him? And then there's a little bit of a change coming up to the show. We're going to be adding some other sports, not just men's basketball, to the podcast. We know we love the support and the feedback we've gotten from all of you. We appreciate it. Make sure you go follow the page, the Twitter page at Roll Jays Podcast as well. We're starting to give you a little more insight to other programs at Creighton as well. We've got a special guest, not from the men's basketball team, from a different program within the university that's going to join us later in the show. We're going to give you some updates on how that's going to work as well in the last segment. Tune in. Enjoy the show. It's the Roll Jays Podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing.
Do you need a customized online marketing plan and creative campaigns to help scale your business and achieve goals in 2023? Pixel Fire Marketing can not only help you achieve those goals, but we will help you crush them this year. Pixel Fire Marketing lives and breathes digital marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing has experts in strategic content creation, social media marketing, and website development. Check out Pixel Fire Marketing today and attack marketing in 2023.
It's a show dedicated to people returning to Creighton University. Apparently, welcome back into the Roll Jays Podcast. I'm Jimmy Allen, Alex Drake. That third person couldn't be confused for anybody else. It's Mitch Ballock, former Creighton star and now GA on the staff. Mitch, what's the return to Creighton been like for you, and what ultimately led to your decision to becoming a GA on the staff?
Yeah, the return's been great. Getting acclimated, obviously, like outside the basketball lines and just from a different lens has been just a transition for me. Obviously, two different things, but at the end of the day, it's still basketball. So it's good to be a part of it, and it's good to see the other side of things and how they view it, how they view the game outside of the lines. And a big role it played, like in my decision coming back, was Jalen Courtney Williams, Coach Jalen. Obviously, you guys know him, and if not, you should.
He's probably one of our favorite interviews. So yeah.
Yep. He's big time. He's the man. He kind of brought the opportunity to me. He kind of put it in my mind. He was like, "Hey, if this were to happen, what would you think?" And I was like, man, I mean, obviously my sights were still stuck on basketball, and then seeing him at that time was kind of like I don't know. It kind of shined a light on what I should maybe think about and look towards moving forward in the future. So then I started thinking about it. I brought the idea to Mac, and Mac, I just told Mac to give me a week to really think about it, see if I'm really done. And then I figured this was a great opportunity, and this might not always be here for forever. So I jumped on it, and I haven't regretted anything, and I haven't looked back in the 6 weeks that I've been doing it. So it's been fun so far.
No, that's awesome. Now, like you said, you had to think about it. You had to decide if you were really done. What have you learned both from, the camps, the G League, and then playing over in Europe that you can kind of come and help the players a little bit more than maybe if you had started right out of school?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was thinking about this, honestly, before I decided to hang up the shoes. I was thinking about, like, if I were to take this job, what kind of value would I bring to the guys? And I essentially came to the conclusion that I get to help guys get to the levels that I never really got to. I mean, I went to training camp with the Cavs and obviously got cut, played in the G League, and played a year overseas. So I have that experience, and being that, like, on the fringe, being like a fringe guy is what they call them, being so close to actually making a team in the league. I learned a lot of things that help you get to that point, and a lot of things that hurt you when you get to that level. That'll, I mean, pose challenges that are hard to overcome if you want to get to that level. So I want to bring that back to those guys, and hopefully they can get to that point where they can jump that last hurdle and essentially get to a team. But just a lot of things, that how to do things, how not to do things, how pros live their life, how they approach the game, how they bring that, what mentality they bring daily. Building that consistency is just like a lot of things that I've learned and I've seen guys who have done that and walk in with that approach that are still in the league. And I've seen guys that don't have that aren't in the league anymore. So I can replicate that and then show those guys, and hopefully they can learn a thing or two from me and get to that level that I never got to.
It's probably hard for you to kind of keep an eye on your alma mater while you're in Europe and you're playing the G League and kind of doing your own thing. But I'm sure you saw glimpses of this team last year that made that run to the Elite Eight, was a heartbeat away from a Final Four. Who were you personally excited to kind of get your hands on and work with from what you saw a year ago?
Honestly, I mean, this is like a bad answer, obviously, but everyone. I mean, it's awful. If I had to narrow it down, obviously, everybody wants to work with the players that play the most minutes, but I'm most excited about. I mean, I'm here for 2 years, so I'm most excited about those guys that are gonna take over after, like, the Baylor Shireman's, the Ryan Kalkbrenners, the Stephen Ashworths leave. I've worked with them a little bit. And when I was still playing, I worked out with those guys throughout the summer with Doug McDermott and all those guys. So I kind of got to see how they move, kind of got to know a little bit about them, know where they came from, what they're about. So that's cool. And then I can just take that approach right into when we're playing. But honestly, like the Jason Greens, the Isaac Trouts, I'm excited to work with those guys because, I mean, that's essentially the future. And those older guys, it's hard to teach older guys a lot of the concept stuff because they've been doing it for so long, and a lot of it they should have. Obviously, Steven's in a new system, but a similar system to what we got him from. So those guys, they get it a little easier, but Jason and Isaac are huge stepping stones to what we want to, if we want to be successful going forward. I mean, we want those guys to really develop and work on their game and kind of fine tune some things so we can continue that, like you said, get to that Final Four and go back to Elite Eights in the future. So that's what I'm probably most excited for, but overall, everybody.
Is it weird coming back as the old guy now who is also recently married, and now you got all the years and wisdom and life advice for a guy like Ryan Kalkbrenner who just got engaged?
Yep, no question. It's honestly kind of cool because like I've lived it, like I've gone through what they've gone through or what they're going to go through. So I can kind of be that voice that's not always like someone telling you what to do, but they haven't really been in that situation. So it's just a different approach. It's a different voice. And I like being that guy because when I was here, when I was a sophomore, say I was 19, 20, 21 years old, and the coaches were saying things, sometimes it didn't resonate with me, with them. But like if, we'll say one of the GAs or somebody said something to me, it was like it was a different resonation with me. So hopefully I can be that voice to those guys and kind of get through the message that the coaches are trying to get through to them. But it comes from me and it comes from a different person that's actually lived it and been there. So hopefully that'll resonate a little more with them. But yeah, it's definitely weird.
The one thing that just we talk to an assistant every week, and the one thing that continuously gets brought up is the pace in the space in which this offense runs. You've obviously had the experience of playing inside the lines, like you said. How much different is it to understand the concepts of this offense when you're standing on the sidelines?
It's pretty. I mean, if you asked me this question when I was a freshman, I'd say it's really difficult. But being in the system for 4 years obviously helps. I've learned a lot, and I can actually show guys that. So, I mean, like I was always a visual learner,
Right.
I like, you got to show me it, you got to see it. So if somebody messes it up and you're trying to tell them and they don't really understand, then I'll just jump in and be like, hey, this is what it looked like. And then show that pace, show that space like you guys were talking about. I mean, that's why our offense is so potent and why it's so difficult to guard because, I mean, at the same time, we're just going off reads and we have so much space to work with. So it's easier to see now, but I'd say 6 years ago, no, it'd be really difficult to see, and you'd have to watch a lot of film and show guys really what you're talking about and trying to get them to do it.
So you're most known around here for the Ballock bomb. Is that natural, or is that something that you could teach these guys?
I think a lot of it's natural. There are guys that have it, and there are guys that should never try to have it. And then there are guys. So
Kalkbrenner shouldn't be trying to launch the Ballock bomb.
Exactly. The fun thing is we have a couple guys that can replicate it and keep going. So, and just like I stole it from the Raggi bomb. So you got to pay your respects to whoever was before you. So.
All right. Well, let's see if you could throw some shade then. Ethan Raggi, Mitch Ballock, Baylor Shireman, 3-point contest. Who wins?
Oh, I mean, I'm going with me any day of the week. I mean, it's not even close. You can ask those guys. Baylor's definitely saying me, and Rocky would probably say him, but Baylor's saying me for sure.
See, I was around with Raggi. I remember the Villanova game. I think you win on distance, no doubt. If you guys are backing it out, if you guys are backing out, but I don't know. Ethan was pretty deadly from that one corner.
Here's what I got, and I'll try and say it as unbiased as I possibly can. If we're doing a 3-point contest, like 5 balls at a rack, Ethan will probably beat me. Just being honest. If we're on the move, I think I'm beating him. Like, I think I'm a better on the move shooter.
100%.
I think he's a better catch and shoot shooter. And then the distance, like you said, it's pretty equal. But I mean, I had just some deep, like unreal deep ones that just, I don't know. But so did he. So I give him the spot shot victory, and I give me them on the move.
I don't think there's anybody ever in the program that beats you off the move. I don't.
Well, I appreciate that.
That brings up an interesting topic, though, because we often hear guys say, you know, oh, I crafted my game after KD or Jordan or whoever. When you talk about moving off the ball and distance shooting, I mean, there's one guy that's at the top of that list, and that's Steph Curry. And there's always the discussion about how much he changed the game. Was he a guy that kind of inspired you too? Was there somebody else that kind of inspired how you played?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I would watch a lot of those guys. Steph, definitely. I had the opportunity to go out to his camp when I was like 15, and I went 3 straight years. So seeing it live and in person, and I even one of the times played a couple of games one-on-one with them, it's just different, you know, like some of those guys are just different. And then like I watched film when I was in high school and college of like the JJ Redicks, the Joe Harrises, guys like that. You want to take stuff like that you can kind of emulate and steal. I obviously wasn't stealing stuff from Kobe and Jordan. Like I'm not in the post mid fades. Like I'm not doing that. So I kind of catered it to what I'm going to do in the games. And then that kind of just inspired me to get a little stronger and just get a little more like lethal and space the floor. I mean, if you, like in high school, I was getting double teamed and triple teamed when I was a senior in high school. So I kind of had to figure out different ways to score. And honestly, that was just shooting deeper shots. So I learned that from Steph. Obviously, Steph changed the game and is forever changing the game. And now the game is just, I mean, everybody's talking about analytics and points per possession. And that's a huge thing because of Steph. Like the 3-point shot is the most deadly, like you said, in the corners. And it's like, that's obviously who you want to be and who you want to turn into because he did it the right way. But yeah, a little bit from everybody, with obviously the headstone being Steph.
So here's an interesting thing, just to kind of stay on the shooters topic. And I'd love to get your point of view because you're way better of a shooter than I ever was. There's like the quintessential form that you're taught when you're a kid, right? But then you have guys that are great shooters like Steph Curry that don't necessarily have that perfect form. Like his feet are a little cockeyed sometimes. But the one thing I give Steph over everybody else in the history of the league, including guys like Ray Allen, JJ, all his motion, none of it's wasted.
Yep.
As a shooter and a coach, where do you draw that line on working on mechanics to get out wasted motion, but keep them comfortable?
Yeah. What I always say, and I mean, keep it modern day, obviously, because that's just kind of where we're at. If you can teach Steph movement and Steph off the ball, like setups off the ball, like getting open and getting to your spots, you teach that. And then if you can combine the two, I like to say, hey, like your body, like you said, like your body, you're not going to be able to make shots, shooting shots like Steph Curry. But if you have that motion and you can emulate that with a Klay Thompson form and like just like stability of his base, like Klay Thompson flies around and he's always on balance. Like he's always feet going to the rim. Like his shots are always, they're never off balance, you know? So if you can emulate the two and put them together and show clips of both and take out the Steph, like crazy hip turns and all that, then that's where you start to build that consistency and you start to shoot better percentages. So that's kind of my approach as a coach. That was my approach as a player. Like, hey, like feet shoot, you know, like all this is muscle memory, like everything up top, muscle memory. But if your feet are off balance, not everybody's Steph Curry. So your percentages are historically going to be lower than you want them to be.
You already referenced Jalen Courtney-Williams in this interview and his role in impacting coming back. But as far as a day-to-day job duty description, which coaches are you working with the most, and what exactly is your role in this program from a in-practice standpoint?
Yep. Right now, with it not being off season, obviously I've been doing a lot of the film work and just breaking down how to use the resources that we use. So Lucas Vargas, honestly, the new video coordinator, has been a huge help in that and just showing how we do those things. Fast forward into the season, I'll be working a little more with DK or Coach Kellogg, and doing like more of the player personnel and other teams out of bounds stuff. And then like what I bring to the table in practice is obviously just like what I talked about a little bit earlier. And depending on the season, how it goes, like we had one guy that has surgery, and to get even numbers, like I can jump in and play, and just give him a different look, kind of be on that scout team essentially whenever we get into those that point of the season. I can kind of give guys a better look, and just give guys like who are fatigued like just a little break. So we're always sending fresh bodies at them, and we're always giving them a solid look of what they're going to see a couple of days later in the game. So that's what I'm bringing to the table. Those are the coaches I work with. Obviously, we work with all the coaches a little bit, but primarily I'll be with Coach Kellogg during the season.
During your time as a player, who was the coach you were most afraid of making angry at practice?
That's a really good question. I mean, obviously Mac. You gotta say Mac because he's calling the shots at the end of the day. But assistants, my freshman year, I'd probably say D-Rock, just because.
Wow.
Because D-Rock was like I respected him. He recruited me since I was 14. We kind of had just like kind of a different relationship, but I never knew what he was really gonna say. Like we might have come in and won a couple games, and he was like stone faced during practice, or like you do some things, he just have his arm crossed. And then sometimes you'd look at him and he'd be like this, and you never knew if it was because of you. So I was always like, I could never figure D-Rock out. And I only had a year to do it. Obviously he went to Drake and he's doing well and he's successful and whatever. But I never got the time to figure him out. So probably him. And then it got to be Paul Lusk. Coach Lusk was like, I never wanted to like do anything wrong, and we had a back and forth one game.
He's got that voice too.
He's got that voice, and he's always right. Like,
that's a good point.
As a player, you like challenge him a little bit, which I probably shouldn't have, but I went at him one time, and I mean, he put me in my place, and then Mac put me in my place, and it was just one of those situations where I get it, and being on the other side, you can kind of see it. Like, you're definitely right. Like they're right, and you're wrong as a player.
Well, see, that's funny to me. I have a buddy who played for Murph at Hampton when they had the 15-2 win. And to this day, he played overseas and stuff. He says Murph is the scariest man he ever played for. Which I've never heard that from a Creighton player, which is what's so funny to me about it.
Okay, that's actually crazy because so when I graduated college, I told Murph, I said, Murph, when I came in as a freshman, because I was bounced around on the scout team a little bit, and he always had the white team. I told Murph, I was like, Murph, when I was a freshman, I hated you. And then now that I'm graduating, I'm out of here. I was like, Murph, I get it. Like, it all understands. And I told this to his face, and he's just laughing. But at the end of the day, those guys have your best interest in mind. And it's hard to see sometimes when you're a 19, 20-year-old kid, but that's the beauty of, honestly, this culture and where we're at and what we do. And that's – so it's funny that you brought that up, and it's funny that you said that because I could kind of get on board with that.
I could see Murph being like, what a coincidence. When you were a freshman, I hated you. So
yeah, he probably said the same thing. He never did say that, but I'm sure he was thinking it.
That's Mitch Ballock, former Creighton great, new graduate assistant. Welcome back to the program. We're looking forward to seeing your impact on this team and this program going forward, and thank you for your time today.
Yep, I appreciate you guys.
We'll be right back with Creighton assistant coach Jeff Vanderloo here on the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Marketing.
Do you need a customized online marketing plan and creative campaigns to help scale your business and achieve goals in 2023? Pixel Fire Marketing can not only help you achieve those goals, but we will help you crush them this year. Pixel Fire Marketing lives and breathes digital marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing has experts in strategic content creation, social media marketing, and website development. Check out Pixel Fire Marketing today and attack marketing in 2023.
Welcome back into the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. In the loop this week is Coach Lou. Jeff Vanderloo from Creighton joins us. Coach, you guys are just underway in the start of practice in this 23-24 season. What has been the most surprising moment of this early stage of practice to you so far?
Well, I guess how probably the starting five is kind of meshed together, and I'm most happy about the three big guys that we have coming back have all shown so much improvement.
Is it? I guess I'm trying to figure out the right way to ask this question, but like, how do you gauge improvement from a guy like Baylor Shireman, who's been around the block so long? Obviously Kalkbrenner got his feedback from the NBA scouts, and we talked to him about what he's working towards. But like, how do you gauge these guys' improvement together when they've been around for so long?
Well, like we had practice on Sunday night, and it was just so. What do I want to say? That when those three guys are all out there together, and the ball moves so fast, and there's so many good things happening, and then you can just tell how they've all worked on their individual games, so things are so much better than they even were last year. Those three guys are a force.
When you come into a brand new season with such high expectations like you did a year ago, and then obviously this season those expectations being, if not the same, maybe even a little bit higher, who in that locker room kind of takes the lead of canceling that outside noise from a player standpoint?
Well, most of those guys have been through it. I mean, even Mason and Fred have been through it, so they certainly all they understand that. And the nice thing about all three of those guys is that none of them are real up and down guys. They're all pretty steady. You probably had Ryan on the show, and he's just a real steady guy. Trey's real steady, and Baylor's real steady. So it's not like that we expect to have really highs with them and really low lows. I would think all three of them have pretty much the personality of just staying straight down the line.
Coach, I was just having this conversation with a friend, and kind of going back to 2013, 2014, the first year in the Big East. You're not that year's kind of an outlier. You're not necessarily the hunted that year. But people were expecting they were giving us their best shot because we were the new kids on the block. Whereas now you've related to truly being the hunted in practice one for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly are the hunted, and I believe when we had Doug McDermott, we were probably the hunted then too. But I would say that
Doug was definitely the hunted.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and you remember back then. So but we certainly are the hunted again this year. There's no doubt. The nice thing is this league is so tough that there's about 4 or 5 of us that are pretty much the hunted. So I mean, we're going to be hunting each other. There's no doubt that the league is so good. I mean, you might get done with a night of I guess. I got a schedule right here. All of a sudden, you get done with a night of UConn. You're at UConn, then you got to go play at Seton Hall, or you're home to UConn, and then you got to go play St. John's. So it's and our season ends with Marquette, Villanova. So I mean, those are some teams that are also hunted. So anytime you can get a road win in this league, you take it and try to do the best you can at home.
There's no nights off in the Big East. That's for sure. Do you personally have a favorite venue that you go to?
When I first got here, I really like going to Butler, but I've been there so many times now that we even played NCAA tournament there that it's kind of like So I would say probably I love going to Madison Square Garden and all the tradition that's there, and it's when you're playing at Madison Square Garden, you've arrived.
Yeah, I do remember when you guys got back from the tournament right before the NBA, hearing the rest of the managers talk about how cool being at Madison Square Garden was.
Yeah.
It's kind of staying on this. Good.
No, I mean, as when you look when you look back at things, you just go, man, that Madison Square Garden is so cool.
Yeah, for sure. any other ones? Like, I've always heard great things about not necessarily the building itself, but the environment at the Dunk. And we've had a couple of guys say they really like playing at St. John's Small Gym
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Jamaica, Queens.
Yeah, the St. John's gym kind of reminds you of your old high school days a little bit, which now the Patino's there, they're not going to be playing there much anymore. You know, the dunk in the last few years has really stepped it up, maybe to the point of it's a little out of control at times. The nicest building that we probably play in is, I believe, is at Marquette. The Fiserv Arena is the beautiful place. It's where the Bucks play, and it's a great arena. It's huge, and they do a good job supporting those guys.
When you talk about our home gym, when you talk about playing at the Chai, and obviously the atmosphere that goes into that, when it's a game day for you, how much do you personally pay attention to the flames being shot off as guys are running down the aisle? Does any of that even resonate for you, or is it just kind of business as usual, another day at the office?
Yeah, I don't really even know all that stuff that goes on. So it's
You're not clapping along with the fight song?
Yeah, it's I don't really know what goes on. So that's you try not to get tied up in all that stuff. Now,
Sure.
some of it's certainly cool and all that, and it's noisy in some of those gyms. Xavier's crazy noisy, and but it's I mean, we're trying to win a basketball game where I'm not worried about what direction the fire is going.
You brought up the schedule, and we're getting close enough that we can kind of start to acknowledge that there's a big one. Alabama comes to Omaha, and you guys get a chance to play the Crimson Tide. How much are you personally excited for that matchup?
Well, probably the thing I'm most excited about is my good friend Preston Murphy's on Alabama's staff, so
Sure.
it'll be good. It'll be good to get him back, and I talk to him all the time still. So it's a 1:00 game. It sounds like on Fox, so it's everybody in the nation's going to get to see it.
Those 1:00 games are really fun in basketball. I would say more fun than any other sport. The midday games, I really like those. Coach, you've been here for a while now. Obviously, the staff has had a ton of turnover, mostly for good reasons. Guys elevating to new jobs, obviously. How has your role over the last 10 plus years kind of evolved?
Oh, it certainly has that. Me and Coach Murph are the old guys here now, and we're starting to think about retiring. So it's it's just like I was sat down with Derek Kellogg this morning for probably a half hour and went through some inbounds plays with him, and this is what we do here, and this is what Derek was asking what our meetings are like, and so I've been through hundreds of those meetings. So it's just how we signal in our inbounds plays and things like that. So it's I went for the first 3 years of really not knowing what's going on to now I'm looked at as one of the guys that's been here and kind of understands the way Coach Mack thinks.
How much do you enjoy that process? I mean, there's the process of working with the guys on the court, but like Alex said, you guys have had enough people leave and come in with the additions of Coach Kellogg, Courtney Williams, et cetera, et cetera. How much do you enjoy the process of working with younger coaches and helping them get up to speed?
Oh, I enjoy it a lot, and the thing is, they're good guys. That's Coach Mack just does a fantastic job of some of his hires have just been great because they're good people, and I mean, while we certainly miss Darren DeVries or Preston Murphy or Al Huss, those are great friends of mine. Pat Sellers, I still talk to all those guys all the time. I've probably talked to all of them within the last week or so.
When we're talking about
that.
Go ahead, Alex. You're fine.
Good.
When
I was just gonna say, I still talk to Coach Sellers from time to time. Like, that coaching fraternity that you guys have put together is pretty remarkable.
It really is, and the success they've had. Steve Lutz is having success, and DeVries is having success. I'm telling you, Coach Huss is going to have some success where he's at too.
We obviously have talked to everybody on this staff pretty frequently, and maybe the one that's easiest to forget about is the one that's left most recently. When a guy like Casey Matthews steps away from the program and all he does behind the scenes from a video standpoint, we've heard everybody on this coaching staff, and not just at Creighton, but around the country, about the allure of going to work and coach for Coach Mack. How quickly does a spot like that get filled?
It was basically filled the day it was found out. We moved Lucas Vargas in there, and he'll do fantastic. He has a good understanding of basketball, and he's always wanted to be a film guy. So I think he'll do a fantastic job of getting us what we need, so that we can start breaking things down.
We just had a birthday within the program. You alluded to Murph getting older. His birthday was just last weekend. How was there a celebration involved in that?
Well, I was at Okoboji, so I just had to hit him with a little.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but we got Baylor Shireman today, so I seen a couple of Johnny McHugh and a few of them were walking around with a headband on today. So it was it's always good to give those guys a good time.
Well, Coach,
is Murph the coach that you guys are least likely to prank?
Oh, it's fun to get after Murph a little bit sometimes too. He's not happy because his Cardinals are not doing well, so he's moved on to his Green Bay Packers.
That brings up an interesting point. Right. Do you have a favorite? We talked Packers with Murph last time he was on. Do you have a favorite NFL team?
I really don't. NFL is probably the one that I follow the least. I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, die hard. I was at Game 7 when they won the World Series. I was just there 2 weeks ago. But I love the Cubs and watch.
So you really hate how much the Cardinals are struggling. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that one doesn't bother me as much as it bothers Murph.
Yeah. Well, Coach Lou, we greatly appreciate your time this week. We'll catch up with you in a couple weeks. Good luck for the remainder of practice. We'll talk to you closer to the season.
All right. Appreciate you guys.
That's Creighton assistant coach Jeff Vanderloo.
Thanks, Coach.
Here on the Roll Jays podcast. We'll be right back talking more Jays, maybe a special guest here on the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing.
Do you need a customized online marketing plan and creative campaigns to help scale your business and achieve goals in 2023? Pixel Fire Marketing can not only help you achieve those goals, but we will help you crush them this year. Pixel Fire Marketing lives and breathes digital marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing has experts in strategic content creation, social media marketing, and website development. Check out Pixel Fire Marketing today and attack marketing in 2023.
Welcome back into the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. We promised you a special guest, and we sure have one. It's Chevelle Saunsoci, Creighton women's assistant coach under Coach Flannery on that side of things. Coach, this has been mainly a men's basketball podcast like we've talked about. We really appreciate your time and a little bit of insight to what you're bringing to your program and exactly everything you guys have in the works for this offseason as well. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
We'll start off. I mean, obviously, you're alumni. You played at Creighton. You decided to come back to Creighton as a coach. What has the experience been like, and how much different is it going from player to coach in your experience?
It's quite a bit different. Like, one of the biggest things that I had to adjust to, when I first started coaching is the fact that I don't physically have any control over, what transpires in the game. So it challenges your communication skills to be able to connect with different kids who have different ways of receiving information and being able to actually apply it to, a game and practice scenarios to get better. But I think that is honestly way more rewarding than being a player. I think it's fun to contribute to kids' success and just be part of their growth.
Coach, one thing that I found interesting back in 2014 when I got to see some of the women's practices when I was on the staff with the men's team. And I did not know this was kind of the case in women's college basketball. But you guys go out and find student boys to practice against daily. Is that still kind of what's happening today while maybe we try and draw more interest to the women's sport? Or how does that process work? How do you pick who you get out there?
Yeah, so you're talking about our scout team?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, so that's actually been going even since I was a player. And one of the biggest things that it helps us with is it just helps us with preparation. The men's team, they often have a bigger roster for obvious reasons. It helps them to scrimmage and play and do, a lot more with their top guys together. Whereas the women, you don't get that at least with our philosophy when it comes to our roster size, it's really beneficial to have a men's scout team. So we've been doing that for a while, and basically it helps us prepare for other teams. It gives us a different look. It exposes you quite a bit because obviously they're usually bigger and more athletic. But I think it gives our kids a different challenge, and it kind of eases up that, tension, if you will, from practicing against the same people every single day. So that's one of the things that we really like about having our men's scout team. I would say this year we're probably going to use them a lot more than we used previously because we only have 11 kids on the roster this year. But yeah, that's usually what we use them for.
So I want to back up to that a little bit. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Is that something that's unique to Creighton? I thought that was kind of the standard across women's college basketball, and forgive me for my ignorance on that. But is that unique to Creighton? And for one, and two, how do you guys just hold tryouts for the boys to come be on the scout team? How does that work?
Yeah. So no, it is not unique to Creighton. It's pretty typical to have a men's scout team for women's basketball programs. But usually, like when we first started to try to recruit or, get guys to get on the team, we'd go to the KFC, the student center where they're playing pickup and stuff, and like literally scout. And what has happened now is the guys who have been really good for us, they'll refer, friends that we can, trust to show up and be good listeners, because that's the other gap that usually is there. Sometimes these guys are super competitive and don't have the ability to kind of pull back and realize, like, we just want you to be a strong right-hand driver today. And they want to get a bucket. So we have to kind of figure out how to get those guys on board. But it's been really good so far.
I see Jimmy cracking at the bit.
They're out there dropping 20 and 10 on the scout team. Yeah.
Hey, it's their time to shine.
The lead center, guys. Hey, you brought up the recruiting aspect of it. I think that's the kind of unsung portion of what an assistant and even the head coach does is it's really great when you go get the 4-star, 5-star prospect and it's sunshine and rainbows, but the times that you're out on the trail and you're going through the AAU circuit or whatever it may be, how much are you personally involved in recruiting for this team?
Yeah, so quite a bit, actually. Me and the other two assistants, we are heavily in the day-to-day. Flan, our head coach, he's also involved, but a lot of the times we do a lot of the foundational work when it comes to the communication piece. And obviously, like, we're all part of identifying kids that could play for us. But when it comes to actual, researching the background of the kid, figuring out, if they can contribute and how realistic it is that they could come to Creighton. That's more kind of what we do when we do a lot of that background, talking to, coaches and maybe a couple of their administrators, anything we can get a hold of information wise, that's usually our role in it. And then just the day-to-day communication with those kids usually falls on us assistants. So we're in the thick of the recruiting.
I think there's another really underrated aspect across the women's game from when I was coaching at the high school level, especially around here. I coached at Concordia Lutheran High School, and I think a lot of people don't understand that while you're playing the same game as the men's, it is a totally different style across the board. And I remember when I was coaching at Concordia, we actually spent more time going to Creighton and Nebraska and UNO women's practices because from a basketball purist standpoint, that game is all about the individual actions as a whole versus who might just be the most athletic team. And from a recruiting standpoint, that's probably a little bit harder for the women's game and finding people who are going to fit each individual role in that specific system. And they're not going to be able to just go break it down and go one-on-one and dunk on somebody.
Yeah, you're right. It is definitely there are more data points that we probably have to reach for than men, because the eye test isn't always what it seems like it is. So athleticism is valuable, but it's not as valuable in our game because obviously we play below the rim, which means we have to be a lot more technically sound. Our fundamentals have to be sharper, and just in general, we have to be better shooters. So we're not getting lane, we're not getting Westbrook layups, 5-on-5.
These days,
So
you don't want that anyway.
yeah,
But it
the
is
old
so much.
Westbrook.
It is
OKC
so much
Westbrook.
more a fundamental game. And that's
Yeah.
what I appreciated as a coach. I was able to go get so many more of the offensive actions out of it in the team defense standpoint than, you don't have a Ryan Kalkbrenner who can just block the lane no matter what.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and there are the outliers out there, right? Like there's the kids who are just ridiculously athletic and they can freaking dunk, or they can do some things that a lot of women can't. But to your point, like your general recruiting is it's gonna rely a lot more on those other data points. Their shooting efficiency, their ability to take care of the ball, decision making. Can they move a little laterally? Can they compete with these kids who are a little faster going downhill defensively? So, yeah, it's a lot that goes into it, and we are very research heavy when it comes to kids recruiting. We obviously check character too, but we want to be as sure as we can that those kids are going to have a chance to be successful here.
Coach Chevelle Saunsoci joins us here on the Roll Jays podcast. Coach, for you mentioned that you guys are a little bit down in numbers this year. When you guys are discussing numbers as a coaching staff, is there an ideal number that you guys would like to be at?
Well, Flan, his philosophy is more towards that 12 to 13 number. Women are also different than men in the locker room.
Sure.
And it's really important that you feel like you can support and genuinely have relationship with each one of those kids to make sure that they feel, cared for. And then on top of that, you just don't want to have so many kids that are unhappy with playing time, or you don't want to put any of those factors in there. So that's why his philosophy is more towards that, a little bit lower than normal, because you want to give a lot of those kids a chance to play.
Sure.
And so that's kind of what we've stuck with.
That philosophy has obviously worked for you guys. You have a little bit of a brag that the men don't last year. You guys got a win over Nebraska. You made it to the NCAA tournament as well. What was the run last year like, and how much different is last year's team going to be compared to this year's team?
Yeah, well, last year we obviously lost in the first round, unfortunately. The matchup situation wasn't great, and it was a team that was kind of peaking, and we just could not freaking hit it in the ocean. Like we could not touch anything. So it was just a bad combination. But I think that this team compared to last year, we lost two really important seniors, Rachel Saunders and Carly Batchelor, but we returned all of our scoring. So it's just going to be one of those things where we got to figure out who of our younger group is going to take on some of those roles and things that those other guys did before they graduated, and how those guys can help us. But we should be very, very good this year again. And as long as we're healthy, I feel really good about this season too.
What's the biggest change you guys are looking for out of your returners, whether it be something on the defensive end, or you guys are going to add a new wrinkle offensively? Kind of what's the biggest change that fans should expect this year?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I'll say that I'm hopeful that they're extremely confident. Like we said, they're older. They were all scorers last year, and even playing in that 3-on-3, USA Nationals and winning that, and watching those girls play up against some of these big name teams. Duke, Utah is a good women's basketball program. Tennessee. Absolutely. And winning that entire thing, you feel like they're a lot more confident. So I'm excited to see that actually translates to, when we get going again during the season.
I got the opportunity to catch up with Marcus Blossom just a few weeks ago and get his thoughts on different athletic programs. And he referenced your guys' program several times throughout the conversation. Obviously, when a guy like Bruce Rasmussen steps away and you have a new athletic director come in and kind of want to put his fingerprints on things, how much is what Marcus Blossom is doing in his office affecting your guys' program?
I would say a lot. Like your AD matters. Ras was obviously awesome for us, and it's been really, really good. He's been able to set us up for a lot of the success we've had and we are having now. But I think the handoff was smooth. I feel like Marcus is extremely high on women's basketball. He's shown that through action and his support physically, being at games and also just some of the things that have allowed us to focus more on our team, which is great, and that's what you want to see as you progress in this league in the Big East. So I feel like there hasn't been any stoppage of the trajectory when it comes to support for our program.
I think the biggest takeaway here is that we're on first name basis with the athletic director.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That shows he shows up. Yeah.
Yeah. Coach, you took a couple year hiatus away from the program to go do, I would call it passion work and some very important work. Can you talk a little bit about that in your little hiatus from the program and all the great things you were able to do?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, I'm a mom. And at the time I was a new mom. So in that year when I was kind of going back and forth of whether or not I should leave and kind of get out of it to spend more time with my daughter, I also had that, like you said, passion in my mind to work with younger kids in our community. North Omaha is obviously right down the street from us at Creighton, and so you see it's so close to you. You want to help in different ways, and NCAA restrictions don't necessarily allow you to help as much as I was desiring to help. And so it just seemed like both of those things came together and it was the right thing to do at that time. So when I got out, I right away got into training in North Omaha with, I was working in a facility with Josh Dosler, who runs Abide campus. And we were kind of working, running the business through their facility. And it's still going on, which I'm super happy to say. One of our former players, Alexis Aquino-Tico, along with another former player, is running it currently. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I just felt I felt very fortunate in the position I was in, but I felt helpless to not be able to do as much as I wanted to do when it came to that. So yeah, it was mainly just mentorship with younger kids through basketball. And running a business there to help kids who want to play college basketball one day.
Where does that passion come from?
I would say it comes from basketball is huge for me in my life. It was therapeutic. It got me through some things, in my childhood. It was just something that put me in a position of where I am today. So I just feel that basketball is a vehicle that was extremely useful for me as a young player and young player. I think for the kids that are out there who want to do other things in life, I just like to use that as the carrot. So because I know the impact it had on me. So I think my biggest thing with basketball is just how I can use it to help others. And it just came from how much it helped me when I was growing up.
If anybody would like to maybe get involved with the program, can you kind of tell us where they can do that? And if there's somebody in the North Omaha community that's looking to get a player involved, how can they register as well?
Yeah. So the website is developbasketball.com. It's DVLP basketball.com. And you can go on there, you can inquire, and you can sign up for any of the workouts. And then if you can't afford that, the coolest thing is that you can still sign up, fill out a little form, and you can still get access to the same training that everybody else has access to.
That's awesome.
We obviously gave your government name at the beginning of this interview. You go by Coach Chevy. Who in your life is still allowed to call you by your actual first name?
Just my mom. I have this one of our assistants calls me Chevelle, and it throws me off every single time.
Yeah, I'll never do it again, I promise.
I feel like I'm in trouble when you call me Chevelle.
For you, I mean, obviously you've done a lot in your life, and you referenced that you're a mom. Is coaching the end goal for you, or is there something that you'd still like to accomplish later in life?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I go back and forth with that. I don't think God has it in my future to be a head coach. I don't have any desire to go that direction. But if anything, I just want to stay within the confines of a team to kind of help again in that mentorship area. Obviously, I love player development. I love to work with kids and help them get better. But I think the most rewarding thing for me is just the development of those relationships and helping, most of the time girls figure out what they're going to do and who they're going to be, for the rest of their life. And I think if I can be in that capacity, whatever I'm doing, I'll be happy.
I host a nightly radio show where I have a ton of high school kids coming in and out of our studio. When you have Bellevue University and Concordia and Omaha and Nebraska and Iowa Western, there's so many options around the Omaha metro area to continue playing basketball. Maybe not always at the Division I level, but if you're walking into a player's home to have a conversation inside the 100-mile radius from Creighton, what is the kind of sales pitch about playing at Creighton versus maybe somewhere else?
Well, I always lean on our tradition and our history. I think that it's unique that even kids that we recruit out of the state speak of people who only say good things about Creighton University as a whole, the entire experience. But when it comes to our women's basketball program, like you said, I mean, one thing that separates us is we've had 15 years with only 2 kids who've left the program, which is unique to any program in the country. And I think that is alone a testament to how you're going to be treated, your ability to succeed here because of, our willingness to be dedicated to that kid and committed to the player the same way that they're committed to us. And I think we just have a unique presence in a really unique city that loves basketball. In a state where volleyball is usually what youth girls do, and football is, it's Husker football everywhere. Basketball is Omaha is a basketball city, and
Agreed.
To play in the city, and it feels like, you don't have any pro teams. So Creighton men's basketball is the NBA here, and I think women's basketball is obviously really, really freaking good. We need to do a better job in a few areas when it comes to, our support. But at the end of the day, I think
We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, come on, let's go. Yeah, I got to help us. I got to help us out a little bit. But yeah, we put out a good product. And I think those are the biggest things when we talk to kids about who are local.
I agree with you, Coach. I support needs to be ramped up a little bit. But I'll say this too. Diving into what we're doing now, I feel like support for the women's game has grown a ton over the last 8 years, and it's on the right track. Now, we asked this question to all our men's coaches that have been around the program for a while. The women don't get to play in all the same facilities, unfortunately. Like, you guys play at Sokol. Outside of Omaha, what's your favorite venue that you've been to?
I like Marquette's venue. It's similar to ours. It's a little bit bigger, but it's intimate. There's no bad seat in the house, and it's designed for women's basketball. So I would say they do a good job. And when even if it's half full, it still feels loud. I think the environment is really awesome. So I would say probably Marquette in our league.
Great assistant coach Chevelle Saunsoci joins us here on the Roll Jays podcast. Coach, we went a little bit longer than we told you, so we'll get you out of here on this one.
Good.
You're at the top of the key with the ball in your hand and Flan's guarding you. Are you scoring or is it getting blocked?
Oh, that's a bucket.
I would have expected nothing less. Coach, we greatly appreciate your time. We're looking forward to having yourself and then other representatives from the women's basketball team joining us throughout the remainder of the offseason and even when you guys are playing. Thank you so much for your time, and it was great catching up with you.
Yeah, thank you guys. You guys are doing an awesome thing, and any way we can support, we're down.
Make sure you check back next week for another men's basketball, another women's basketball, assistant, and possibly even a couple players on the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing.
Do you need a customized online marketing plan and creative campaigns to help scale your business and achieve goals in 2023? Pixel Fire Marketing can not only help you achieve those goals, but we will help you crush them this year. Pixel Fire Marketing lives and breathes digital marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing has experts in strategic content creation, social media marketing, and website development. Check out Pixel Fire Marketing today and attack marketing in 2023.